Imagine the scent of warm vanilla and rising dough wrapping around you like a childhood hug. Every loaf a love letter to the daughter you taught to knead before she could spell her name. Now picture that daughter, the girl who once licked batter from your fingers, storming into your kitchen. Mom, I bought the patisserie chain downtown with your nest egg. Daniel and I needed it for our brand. You can have free croissants on Sundays. The oven timer dings. The world stops spinning. And in that single, heart-shattering moment begins the sweetest, most merciless revenge a baker ever proofed. One risen in silence, glazed with secrets, and served piping hot at dawn. I'm Beatrice B. Moreau, 68, widowed, and the true master of every recipe in this town. This is the raw, uncut story of how I turned betrayal into a legacy that outlasts any thief. If you've ever been robbed by family, erased by greed, or told your craft doesn't rise, hit subscribe right now, smash like if you're ready for revenge baked to golden perfection, and ring the bell so you never miss a crumb. Let's roll the dough. The call came on a Tuesday in early spring, the kind of morning where the kitchen windows fog with yeast and possibility, and the first batch of sourdough is just beginning its second rise. I was piping eclairs, my late husband Henri's favorite, the ones I'd perfected over 40 years in our little corner bakery, when my phone buzzed on the marble counter. It was Chloe, 34, influencer turned entrepreneur, the girl I'd rocked through fevers, taught to fold butter into croissant dough at 4 a.m., and sent to culinary school with every dime from Henri's life insurance. Her voice was all spun sugar. Mom, amazing news! Daniel and I closed on the Patisserie Luxe chain. 5 locations, downtown flagship, marble counters, gold leaf signage. We used your retirement accounts for the down payment. Titles in your name for tax perks. Swing by for the soft opening. Before I could choke on the custard, the line went dead. I stood there, pastry bag trembling, staring at the phone like it had curdled. My entire nest egg, 45 years of 3 a.m. alarms, every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, gone, drained to buy a playground for her ego. And the cottage I'd lived in since Chloe was born, suddenly collateral? I sank onto the stool Henri had carved from applewood, the eclairs weeping cream onto the tray. And for the first time since his funeral, I didn't cry. Something ancient and deliberate proofed inside me, like dough left too long in a warm corner. Because Chloe didn't know. She thought she'd robbed a helpless widow. She had no idea I'd been baking a secret recipe all along. It started 15 years ago, the year Henri's heart gave out in the walk-in cooler. He'd been portioning brioche at dawn, kissed my flour-dusted cheek, and collapsed between the butter blocks. The funeral was small. Chloe was in Paris for a semester abroad, too busy with macaron classes to fly home. That night, alone in our bedroom above the bakery, I found a flour-dusted envelope tucked inside Henri's recipe journal. Ma chérie, it read in his looping script. If you're reading this, I'm kneading in the great beyond. I never told you everything. The heirloom cookbooks I bought in secret, first editions, signed Escoffier, Larousse Gastronomica with marginalia, the 1898 manuscript of Madame Saint-Ange. They're yours. Stored in the false bottom of the proofing cabinet, behind the 82 sourdough starter. There's enough to buy half of Paris twice over. Keep it quiet. Let Chloe earn her crust. Love always. H. I'd sobbed then, but I'd obeyed. I'd kept baking, kept saving, kept the secret. The manuscripts were appraised quietly. Discreet auctions, private collectors, offshore trusts. By the time Chloe called with her amazing news, my hidden empire was worth $10 million, and she just poured my visible nest egg, $850,000, into a single, over-leveraged patisserie chain she'd titled In My Name. The irony was richer than any ganache. I didn't sleep that night. I walked the kitchen in the dark, barefoot on the cool tile, touching every surface like it was Henri's hand. I thought of Chloe at 6, standing on a milk crate to roll dough. At 16, sneaking pain au chocolat to her friends and swearing she'd own the city one day. At 34, laughing in text to Daniel. Mom's too busy counting crumbs to notice we drained her accounts. Old bakers are so predictable. I had seen the screenshots. My neighbor's tech-savvy grandson had pulled them from a hacked group chat. Chloe planning to sell my cottage for flagship expansion, joking about putting me in assisted living with a view of the dumpster. Every word was a burn. But burns make the perfect crust, and I had a plan to glaze her greed into something useful. The next morning, I called Marcel Laurent, Henri's old lawyer, the one who drafted every secret trust. His office smelled of espresso and old parchment, a sanctuary above the boulangerie district. "Beatrice," he said, eyes narrowing as I laid out the fraud. "This is felony identity theft, wire fraud, elder abuse. We can have Chloe in handcuffs by lunch." I raised a hand. "Not yet. I want her to feel the collapse. Freeze the patisserie quietly, lien, injunction, whatever it takes, but let her think she's rising until opening day. Then we bake." Marcel grinned like a fox in the henhouse. "You're a dangerous woman, B. Moreau." I smiled back. "I'm a baker. Danger is just another proof." I started the performance immediately. I let the neighbors see me counting pennies at the farmer's market, wearing Henri's threadbare apron, hair unwashed. Mrs. Rossi from the gelateria caught me staring at a $2 loaf of ciabatta. "Bia, you okay? Heard Chloe bought the Lux chain." I sighed, letting my shoulders sag. "She's ambitious. I'm just trying to keep the cottage oven on." She pressed the ciabatta into my hands, promising tiramisu. The butcher, the florist, the barista, all got the same story. Poor Bia, robbed blind by her own flesh, too proud to beg. I sold a few loaves of my backyard sourdough for grocery money, just enough to keep the act airtight. Chloe called once, from a gleaming flagship kitchen with marble islands as backdrop. "Mom, the display cases are killer. You gotta see the chandelier, Swarovski crystals, shaped like croissants. Did you get the $3,000 I sent?" "Yes, darling," I said, voice trembling. "It'll cover my flour for a month." "Perfect. Gotta go. Investors are here. Love you." Click. She didn't ask if I had eaten. She didn't mention the cottage again. To her, I was already stale. Meanwhile, Marcel worked in the shadows. He filed quiet liens on the patisserie Lux chain, tax irregularities, health code violations, a forged signature on the loan docs. The bank froze Chloe's operating accounts, citing suspected fraud. Opening day was 6 weeks away, and the display cases were empty. $1.5 million worth of equipment, unpaid suppliers, dough not even mixed. Chloe's social media went from triumphant to frantic. "Investors needed, prime patisserie opportunity, message for details." I watched from a burner account, sipping my backyard espresso, letting the panic proof. I escalated in April. I packed a single duffel, left a note, visiting cousins in Provence, and checked into a senior living facility in the suburbs under the name Bia Thierry. The place was beige hell. Powdered eggs, bingo nights, the faint smell of antiseptic. I told the staff I was a retired teacher, widowed, waiting for a pension that never came. I kept one manuscript, the signed Escoffier, its appraisal safely with Marcel, in a locker. Chloe's empire was collapsing, and I needed to taste the chaos close up. I joined bakery forums anonymously, watched Daniel brag about flipping the old lady's dough into gold leaf. The comments turned savage. "Heard the banks for closing. Bad karma, dude." By May, they were living in a rented studio above the flagship. Their savings gone, their credit scorched. Chloe posted a tearful reel. "We lost the dream. Please support our GoFundMe to save the opening." I watched on the facility's communal TV, my heart twisting like a twisted brioche. She looked like the girl who'd cried when her first souffle fell, not the woman who'd collapsed my future onto her ambition. I made my move in June. Marcel had secured the patisserie Lux chain through a shell company, bought back for pennies from a panicked bank, and frozen Chloe's access to the walk-in coolers. The pastries were spoiling, suppliers unpaid, the flagship a ghost kitchen. I sent an anonymous tip to the local food blog. Local influencers' patisserie built on elder fraud, exclusive docs inside. The story exploded. Daughter steals $850K from widowed baker to fund Luxe chain. Chloe's face was plastered everywhere, next to my cottage photo and the forged loan docs. She called me at the facility hysterical. "Mom, you have to help. The bank's seizing everything. Daniel says we need another $400,000 to open. Can you remortgage the cottage?" I let the silence rise, then whispered, "Chloe, I'm eating oatmeal for dinner. I have nothing." A choked sob, then a click. No apology, just the same entitled girl who'd stolen my sunrise. The final act came on opening day, June 15th, the air thick with desperation and the ghost of butter. Chloe had hired day bakers with IOUs, promising double pay after sales. The display cases were half filled with day-old rejects, the chandelier unlit. I arrived at dawn in Henri's old delivery van, dressed in my best baking whites, apron starched, hair braided, eyes sharp as a lame. Marcel rode shotgun. 2 sheriff's deputies followed in a cruiser. The flagship gate was padlocked, but I had the key. Marcel had filed the deed transfer quietly weeks ago. We rolled through the alley, past the studio where Chloe and Daniel had slept on an air mattress. They didn't see me until I stepped out, boots crunching on spilled sugar. "Morning, team," I called, voice carrying like a dinner bell. Chloe spun from behind the counter, face draining of color. "Mom, what the hell?" She stopped when the deputies flanked me, Marcel unfolding court orders like pastry dough. "Chloe Moreau, Daniel Voss, this property is under seizure for fraud, elder abuse, and breach of fiduciary trust. Vacate immediately." Daniel bolted for the studio. A deputy caught him by the apron strings. Chloe dropped to her knees on the tile, flour puffing around her like a fallen souffle. "Mom, please, we can fix this. I'll pay you back. Every cent." I knelt, eye level, and smiled the way Henri used to when a lamination took. "You already did, ma petite. You just didn't know the recipe." I led them through the flagship, marble counter smeared with ganache, Swarovski chandelier clouded with panic. I showed them the proofing cabinet's false bottom, now updated with my $10 million manuscript empire. "These recipes," I said, gesturing to the cases, "I've owned them for 15 years, appraised quietly, profits compounding. The Luxe chain, I bought it back last month for 20 cents on the dollar thanks to your little scandal. The cottage, untouchable. And you," I turned to Chloe, voice soft as chew, sharp as a blade, "you're going to work off every dollar you stole. Starting now." The sentence was poetic. Chloe and Daniel were arrested on the spot. Felony fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy. Bail was set at $400,000 each. Neither had a crumb. I posted it myself. On one condition, they'd work the patisserie under my supervision for 5 years, no pay, living in the studio. Every cent from sales would fund the Moreau Elder Justice Bakery, free pastries, and legal aid for seniors robbed by their kids. The deputies cuffed them as cameras rolled. The food blog live-streamed the whole thing. Chloe's last words before the cruiser door slammed, "Mom, I'm sorry." I didn't answer. I was too busy tasting victory. The first year was brutal. Chloe laminated croissants under my eye, hands blistered, learning every fold by heart. Daniel tried to run once. The sheriff brought him back in cuffs. I made them sleep in the studio, eat with the bakers, earn every meal. I redecorated the flagship with photos of Henri, him piping eclairs, laughing, alive. Chloe saw them every day. At night, I'd find her on the back steps staring at the stars, whispering apologies to the dark. I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Forgiveness is a slow rise. Year 2, the patisserie turned profit. $2.5 million in sales, all donated. Chloe started a blog from the studio, Confessions of a Prodigal Pastry Chef. It went viral, raw, broken, real. Readers sent letters, "You gave my mom courage to press charges. Thank you." Daniel cracked, begged to leave. I let him go, with a lifetime ban from the city and a $1.8 million civil judgment. He's flipping burgers in the suburbs now. Chloe stayed. She learned to temper chocolate, to pipe roses, to bottle. She learned the weight of $1 earned in sweat. Year 3, I launched the Moreau Haven, a free bakery on the flagship's upper floor for seniors healing from family fraud. Widows piped beside Chloe, their stories softening her edges. She taught them to taste dough, to trust again. One night, an 80-year-old named Margaret pulled me aside. "Your girl's changed, Bea. She cries when she thinks no one's looking." I nodded, throat tight. The ovens were teaching her what I never could. Year 4, Chloe's sentence ended. She could have walked. Instead, she knelt on the tile where Henry died and asked to stay, not as a daughter, but as a partner. "I don't deserve your name," she said, voice raw, "but let me earn the recipe." I gave her the flagship, the one she'd stolen from me in spirit. "Bake something honest," I said. She did. Her first original, red rye, won Best Artisan Loaf at the State Fair. All proceeds to the foundation. Year 5, opening day again. The city buzzed with bakers, laughter, life. Chloe stood beside me behind the counter, hands stained with rye, eyes clear. "Mom, I still dream of Dad. He's proud of you." I poured 2 cups of the 82 starter, Henri's last culture, into fresh dough. We baked in silence, the oven singing around us. The empire was mine again, richer than ever. The cottage stood untouched, rosemary blooming wild, and Chloe, she'd become the woman Henri always knew she could be. Sunrise spills across the flagship like spilled custard painting the cases in gold. Chloe's laughter echoes from the kitchen where seniors raise eclairs to second chances. The cottage porch light glows, my beacon, my proof. Down the street, a woman my age clutches a foreclosure notice, eyes hollow. I pull over, hand her a warm loaf of redemption rye. "Come bake with us tomorrow. The dough doesn't judge." She climbs the steps. We knead together, and in the quiet ding of the timer, I hear Henri's voice. "You did it, Bea. You turned poison into pastry." The empire is shared now, the lessons hard won, the family reborn in flour and fire. If this story proved hope in your soul, drop a like, comment your own rise from the ashes below, and subscribe with notifications on, because every week I'm serving real stories of women who turned betrayal into 5-star justice. Share this with someone who needs to remember. A single starter, cultured in pain, can feed a legacy that outlasts any thief. See you at the next story.